Okay, this is part two of chapter four, social structure and interaction. And unlike the previous part, that was a little lengthy, and the upcoming part, which is also going to be a little lengthy, this is a nice short one in between because for part two, we are just going to be kind of focusing on two theorists and their ideas about what it is that holds society together. So we talked about social structure. But now we're going to take a step back and just address, kind of in general, what's the purpose of a society? And so, in order to answer that question, it's worth noting that functionalists and conflict theorists, surprise, surprise, do not necessarily agree on the answer to that question. So, functionalist theorists are like, society has some major kind of goals, hashtag goals. They have to replace members, they have to socialize new members, they must produce and distribute goods and services, they must preserve some type of order because otherwise it would be chaos and anarchy. And in general, they need to provide people with a sense of purpose. They need to provide people a reason to say, hey, I'm going to stick it out in this society, even though, I may not like all of its rules and I may get annoyed sometimes about, what's expected of me as a member. But this society gives me a purpose. And so before turning to conflict theorists, let's just consider what this means. So they call these things functional requisites, what a society must have in order for it to survive. And that sense of purpose, although it may sound kind of hippy dippy and not that, and it doesn't seem like it's a basic need, functional theorists do feel that providing your members with a sense of purpose is a functional requisite of a society. And that's why we have religion as a social institution. That sense of purpose in a society is often met through religious groups. And the example that your book gives here is snake handling, which is an aspect in certain churches. This church is in Scottsboro, Alabama. And they note that if you're a non believer, this might seem pretty nonsensical, but if you think about it from a functionalist perspective, it does make a lot of sense. It's the idea that the snakes will sense that you are a member, that you are part of this society, and that as a true believer, that you will not get bit. This ability to kind of set up a us versus them and this status of being part of this group all contributes to a person's sense of purpose, a sense of belonging within a society. And according to functionalist theorists, that is every bit as important as, preserving order and socializing new members. Now, conflict theorists don't necessarily disagree that society does all of those other things. So it's not necessarily that they disagree with the functional requisites, but they have the added critique that societies also have a small elite group of people in power. And we'll talk about this when we get to the stratification chapter. But pretty much there has never been a society that is not stratified on some criteria in some way. And so, according to conflict theorists, it's that small elite group that often have the majority of a society's wealth or whatever the good stuff is in that particular society, and therefore they want to preserve the status quo to hold on to that. And so everything from the socialization of new members to how they produce and distribute goods and services to how equally or unequally they preserve order, as well as what they tell people their purpose in society is all to kind of back up and maintain this status quo. And so this functionalist versus conflict theorist view on why we have societies is an idea that we'll come back to when we get to our later chapters on stratification. But for now, we're going to talk about two theorists and their ideas about what hold societies together. So societies have these purposes, they have functional requisites in order to keep going. But what is it that contributes to our sense of society, our social solidarity, if you will? We're going to talk about two different theorists, Durkheim and Tönnies. So first of all, Durkheim, a name that you will hear a lot and will continue to hear a lot, especially in these early weeks of this course. So Durkheim talked about societies having one of two forms of solidarity, either mechanical solidarity or organic solidarity. And he argued that traditional societies were much more likely to have mechanical, while modern societies were much more likely to have organic. And mechanical solidarity is social interdependence that's based largely on people being very similar. They have commonly shared beliefs, very strong group identity, and so it's almost like people are robots, or what the chart says here, they're functionally equivalent and substitutable. People are all alike. They're related to one another. They all share the same religion. They're all the same race or ethnicity. So their ability to get along with one another and to work with one another is based on the fact that they pretty much are interchangeable. They are not that unique in terms of statuses or social roles. In a modern society where people are much more likely to be different, and in this case is similar to a complex organism like a human body, a human body, our organs are not interchangeable. Our heart, our lungs, our liver, our skin, they all have their own separate jobs. And in order for our body to be smoothly functioning, all those organs need to be able to do their job. And that's how Durkheim saw organic solidarity, is that it is a form of social interdependence and it's based on specialized division of labor. We all get along in society, or we at least all work together smoothly in society more often than not, because we acknowledge the fact that in order for our society to be smoothly functioning, we need to have people that do all these jobs. We need doctors and bus drivers. We need judges and we need waitresses. We need the person who, teaches you your college classes, but we need the person who, rang you up at the grocery store or gas station the last time you stopped in. We all have a job to do in society, and because we respect that, this is what holds us together. And so that is organic solidarity. And Durkheim did see this as being the more advanced and progressive type of solidarity. Now, Tönnies feels a little differently about this. He felt like that what holds society together can't, once again, he has a either or type of setup. It's Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. And they sound very similar to mechanical and organic solidarity. Gemeinschaft is in this society, they have common work, so they, like, for instance, all farm, or they're all sheep herders. They have larger families. They have more connections with one another. So this is a society that's built, that's really based on friendship and kinship. Who you're related to, who you know. This is a everyone knows your name type of society, where people really know one another. And unlike Durkheim, who did not think that mechanical solidarity was superior to organic solidarity, Tönnies does feel like Gemeinschaft is more authentic than Gesellschaft, which is based on differentiation of work, smaller families, less connection, and what he felt like was a superficial interdependence, right? So people don't really respect one another just because they know that they need people that do this work in order for society to be smoothly functioning. he did not think that this was a very authentic form of connection. So you have two different theorists with very similar ideas, but they have very different labels on them. And ultimately, they also came to different conclusions about which one they thought was the better, superior form of solidarity. And so that is it for this one. And check out the third and final video, and that's on social interaction.